What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to another edition of Doubleheader. I'm Amir Daniels, and that is Keenan Costain. And in today's episode, we ask the question: what does Halloween 2006 and Thanksgiving Day 2015 have in common? The answer is in this episode. All right, so hey, here we are, episode 3. Can't believe it.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 3 episodes already, or 2 episodes done, 1 episode to go, which is today, so great
Yep.
to be back, and,
Mhm.
yeah, let's get started. I'm super excited for this episode. There's some familiar teams we're gonna be talking about today, so without further ado, let's just get started.
Well, we ask, we shall receive. And let's do it. All right. So, Keenan, I have a question to ask. The name Tony Romo, what comes to mind when you hear that?
Um, a pretty, versatile quarterback, knows how to throw the ball around, solid with the Dallas Cowboys throughout his career.
Good answer. We might, but of course, got the Cowboys. But of course, we know him today, and our viewers know him as the guy who calls games with this guy, Jim Nance, CBS. Probably not the. Oops. Oops. Before he started calling games for CBS, he used to play, as you said before, Keenan, Dallas Cowboys. Played for them he was drafted by them in 2003, but didn't start his first game until 2006 because he was undrafted out of Eastern Illinois. That college ring a bell?
Eastern Illinois. I not really familiar of to be honest about where Tony Romo is from or where he went to college, but like I said before, you know, really solid quarterback for Dallas, and led to some big wins,
Mhm.
and let's see what happens with this story.
Well, what if I told you he played for a college named the Panthers, the Eastern Illinois Panthers?
Okay. I didn't really know about that.
Well, and did you know he started his first game against the Carolina Panthers?
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. That was some interesting information when I did research on this.
Yep. And speaking of those Panthers, let's see. Okay, you might recognize these guys.
Okay. John Fox, Jake Delhomme, Steve Smith.
Yeah, all correct. And there's a lot to smile. I mean, Steve and Jake were at the 2005 Pro Bowl. John's giving Jake a pat in the helmet because in 2005 they went 11-5, made it all the way to the NFC Championship game, but fell to the Seattle Seahawks, which means expectations are pretty high in 2006. I expect the Super Bowl. They got close a few years prior.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They did get close a few years prior. I want to say the 2003 2004 season, if I'm not mistaken on that, with against New England.
You are correct. So they did compete for the Lombardi Trophy, but sadly, no Lombardi Trophy in Charlotte. But according to Sports Illustrated, they had the Panthers get into South Florida. That's the side of the Super Bowl that year, and they're going to beat the Dolphins in the Super Bowl. But then again, that's because it's Super Bowl bust for this team because they had the talent. They've been to the big game before. Now it's time to bring Lombardi to Charlotte. How's that sound, Keenan?
That sounds not like a bad idea to me. So let's just see.
All right, let's go on to 2006 season. Okay, that's not a good sight. Okay, a little better. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of ugly, good, ugly. What's the deal here? Well, fortunately, they lost their first two games to the Falcons and the Vikings, so that's not a good start. But you're able to beat the Bucks, the Ravens, Saints, and Browns. but then you ended up losing to the Bengals. So yeah, bit of a roller coaster affair for the Panthers, Keenan.
All right, so maybe the this team is off to a rocky start. Not not look not to what they were looking for, but I mean close games like you said, but you know,
Yeah, I
hey,
mean they lost in overtime to the Vikings, not pictured. Beat the Bucks close in Tampa, and beat the Saints close. 8.1 over the Browns, and beat the Ravens in Baltimore by 2, and fell to the Bengals by 3. But by October, they're 4-3, still in first place in their division, just a bit competitive with the Saints and the Falcons. And I got a Sunday night game against the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys?
hmm,
What?
kind of like what we talked about a few episodes ago with Dallas.
Yep, well, they're back again. This time, let's see here. Look what, oh, huh. Super Bowl and represent the NFC. Oh, that's, man, the Cowboys know how to, well, they're not called America's team for nothing. But unfortunately, Mr. Parcells here, he don't look too happy.
No, he does not. He does not look too happy at all. Let's see if I can read some of these stats for our Spotify listeners. Panthers in the 2003 wild card, and well, let me back up. Unlike the Panthers, the Cowboys had not made the playoffs in 2 seasons. Ironically, a 29 to 17 loss to the Panthers in the 2003 wild card round.
hmm And here it is right here. Yeah, Panthers dominated Dallas on their home on in Charlotte that day. Let's see here, and probably wondering why haven't they been back since? Well, Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and Exhibit C.
Hmm.
Yeah, uh, change of quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely a not a roller coaster ride, but you know, what's the word? Musical chairs, as I like to call it.
Well, you'll be right because after the '03 season, the Cowboys let go of Quincy Carter, who's not pictured due to consistent play, so Parcells were brought along Mr. Testaverde from his days in New York. Fortunately, Testaverde couldn't generate the offense, so we also got a cameo by Mr. Drew Henson right here, but he couldn't do much either. So after the '04 season, they were let go, and Parcells brought another familiar face, Mr. Bledsoe, from his days in Foxborough. And speaking of Mr. Bledsoe, let's see how you fared. All right. So, some triumphs, some defeats, and what's this guy? Someone, I see a guy wearing a Cowboys uniform, but he's not wearing number 11. See what happened here. Okay, so, yeah. So look at these numbers. 2005, pretty good. Or decent.
Yeah, yeah. 300 for 499, 61.1, 3,639 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, and a rating of 83.7. So, yeah, pretty good. Not too bad.
Not to mention, won 9 games. Cowboys narrowly missed the playoffs had it not been for a late December collapse. But then, but hey, things are looking up for 2006, right? Oh, no, 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 it's not the case.
No, definitely not the case.
Yeah, Bledsoe started out '06 pretty shaky, only throwing 7 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in first 6 starts. And the low point came on Monday night against the Giants. Right there. Yeah,
Ooh,
that's
7 for 12, 111 yards, no touchdown passes through. Oh, passes, though he ran for a score. Interception, sacked 4 times, one first. Uh, with the Cowboys trailing the Giants 12-7 at halftime. Okay, so that's when Tony Romo comes in, right?
Yeah, and like I said, they're only trailing by 5, but Bledsoe, it's just been erratic, and Barstow says I need to spark this offense. So it's where this guy comes into the picture, and sure enough, he does. He's able to generate some offense, throws 2 touchdown passes to T.O. and Patrick Creighton, but fortunately throws 2 picks, one in return for a touchdown by Kevin Dockery that officially put the game out of reach for Dallas, and after 6 weeks, they're 4-4, or excuse me, they're 3-3, and it's not looking too good for America's team, especially Mr. Bledsoe, because now it looks like you're gonna be relegated to the bench because this guy right here is going to get the start on Sunday night against the Carolina Panthers. Hmm. Ooh, change of guard in Dallas. Hmm. Drew Bledsoe's not he's all too familiar with that because he same thing happened to him in New England with Tom Brady.
Hmm.
So now
Uh,
move on to Charlotte, North Carolina. The Cowboys take on the Panthers. Any predictions, Keenan?
um, any predictions? Hmm, let's see. I did not do research on this part, so this will be interesting for me to learn it as well, folks. So let me think. I say, you know, 16 for 29, who have like a touchdown or two. And maybe his stat line will be good at the end of this for Romo. So, first start coming in and we'll see, after a miserable last game for the team, uh, maybe things will get better.
Well, I'm glad you brought up things will get better because the hometown team, the Panthers, this will be their first Sunday night game since 1999 and the first time since they'll be on NBC since 97. So I know they're going to be fans are expecting a big day from their hometown team, especially from Mr. Steve Smith, who, according to a Sunday Night Football intro, he's been waiting all day for this. Well, let's see what happened, Mr. Smith. Mhm. Right, right, Mr. Okay, I see the Sean Foster, Chris Gamble. Oh, wow, and Steve Smith. Okay, so it looks like we got some. Looks like Steve Smith backed up his word. He did. So he's been waiting all day, and I take it he wants to make a impact, and sure enough, you did, and so did some of your teammates. So recognize these guys. So Sean Foster scores a touchdown. 4 plays later, Chris Gamble picks off Romo, and it doesn't take long for Mr. C. Smith to find the end zones. By the end of the first quarter, 4-0 Panthers. What do you make of that, Keenan?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I recognize actually all three of these players. I mean, I wasn't really watching Panthers football around 2005, 2006, but maybe they've been around with the team for a little while, and they like I said when it comes to this game, they got off to a good start. So I'm liking what I see.
Yep, and Sean Foster, he was on that Panthers '03 Super Bowl squad and scored a touchdown in that game. As for Mr. Gamble, this is his second season in NFL and made quite the interception. They had to go on a review to make sure it was a completed catch, but it turned it was overturned, and this guy found the end zone, and he was coming up a very impressive 2005 season. He was a triple crown, leading in receptions, yards, and touchdowns for Mr.
Yep,
Smith.
definitely not a surprise there. Sure. You know, put out
What is
put up the numbers in the mid 2000s.
what is a surprise? He scored his touchdown on the end around the so that's something you don't see very often. Steve Smith scoring a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, a rushing touchdown for wide receiver Steve Smith. Yep. So that's something that I did not know about when it came to that rushing touchdown play. So good to know there.
Oh yes. And speaking of good, fans of Charlotte are happy. They're told him it's been 7 years. It was worth the wait. Got to be. I think they'll get their money's worth by tonight's end, right? Oh wait, what
Hey,
about those guys from Dallas? Oh, I forgot about
hmm.
them. Oh, the kid strikes back. The kid? Who's that kid? Oh yeah, this guy.
Oh,
Sorry, my telestrator is not the best, but then again, this is Sunday night game, so we might as well honor John Madden as well. Not, but to the best of my abilities. But anyway, well, getting back to the kid or Mr. Romo, he overcame your interception by throwing a touchdown pass in the next drive to this guy. I recognize him. I know his back's turned.
can't really. Is that if I had to take a guess, is that oh, what's his name? Um, give me like 10 more seconds, folks. It's right there at the tip of my tongue. I'm gonna say, is that Jason Witt?
You are correct. And nobody.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Wow.
yep. So what better way to get back in the game by throwing a touchdown to Mr. Jason Witten? And fun fact, that was his only touchdown in 2006 when I did my research. So, kind of weird there.
Yeah, and I do see on the screen there Jason Witten, in the PowerPoint slide.
Hmm.
So if if you're listening on Spotify, folks, yeah, if you're trying to guess like me, um, yeah, you are also correct.
Yep.
If you got the name right.
Hmm. Yep. Jason Witten. No, he's familiar with getting in the end zone. And Mr. Mike Vanderjack, well, he made up for his earlier miss earlier in the game by cutting the lead on a 38-yard field goal to bring pull him within 10. Ironically enough, the Panthers had a chance to extend their lead, but John Casey's 65-yard field goal fell short, so it was 14-10 at halftime in favor of the hometown team. But the visitors, they got momentum's on their side now, or they got a little momentum. So something's got to change in the second half for the home team, right, Keenan?
Um, yeah, I mean, close game, and I mean the home team that was is it the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Oh, this is being played in Charlotte.
Oh, and Charlotte, excuse me. Uh, yeah. I I I say that's right. Sure.
All right, let's see how the second half played out. Okay, I see America's team and home team collapses. Oh, what? That's not a. Okay, what's going on here? I think I might have got my answer. Okay, I see two Cowboys and more Cowboys. No Panthers. Okay. Well, from what I read, third quarter, no scores. But then the fourth quarter occurred, and it all belonged to Dallas. Hence why we're seeing a lot of Cowboy players on these slides here. Excuse my telestrator, folks. So, let's see what happened here. Okay. So let's see. Mr. Jones, Mr. 21, how'd you get in the end zone? Okay, oh yeah, fumbled kickoff. That's not good, Panthers. Brad Hoover. That name ring a bell, Keenan?
Yeah. Brad Hoover. Um, forgot what position that he plays. Yeah. But to answer the question, I am familiar with the name.
Well, he played fullback, and after the Cowboys again cut the lead on another Mike Vanderjack field goal, Brad Hoover received the kickoff, gained some yardage, but unfortunately, right before he was ruled down by contact, lost the football, and the Cowboys recovered it. And one play later, Mr. Jones is in the end zone, and the Cowboys are in front. How about that?
Yeah. Just like it could change. Let's see. Barber score for 3 and 14 yards out respectively. Uh, So definitely a flip of the coin, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, and since we're on subject of the now unfortunately late Marion Barber, well, he scored two touchdowns off of two more Panther turnovers. So of course now they're trailing, they got to start throwing the ball. So Jake Delhomme does drops back out of his end zone looking for a receiver, but instead he finds this guy, Roy Williams. And no, not that Roy Williams in Chapel Hill. There was a Roy Williams who played for America's team. He was a pretty good player. So he turn, picks off that pass, sets up good field position for the Cowboys. That's where Barber scores his first touchdown of the night. 3 yards out, sends the Cowboys lead. But still plenty of time to go in the game. But unfortunately, the Cowboys defense, or unfortunately for the Panthers, their offense fizzles out again because Mr. Greg Ellis, UNC Chapel Hill alum, strips, or excuse me, Jay Ratliff strip sacks Jake Delhomme, and Mr. Greg Ellis recovers the football and Harper's in the end zone again a few plays later from 14 yards out. Cap out the victory for the Cowboys, who scored 25 answered points in the fourth quarter.
25 unanswered.
Yeah, and not only
Because
that,
the defense was on fire, man. The defense was whew, on fire.
yeah,
Uh,
look at right there, 141 rushing yards. I mean, that's combined for Barber and Jones, and not going to win games together with that many yards.
yeah, definitely, man. But so I basically got nothing else to say here. So let's continue.
Yeah. As for Romo, well, tell by these pictures here, say he's going to be the starting quarterback for a while, and sure enough, he is. Well, first of all, let's start off his numbers for that night. Pretty good numbers.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. 24 for 36, 270 yards, one touchdown, one interception. He
Yeah, I
remained
mean,
a starting quarterback for the Cowboys the rest of that season. 6 and
yep,
4 as a starter. So yeah, definitely.
yeah, he got, like I said, got a help from his teammates, especially from his running game and the defense in the fourth quarter. I mean, 141 yards, definitely going to win a lot of games with that. And defense forces three turnovers, gives the offense a short field. And after that game, as you said before, well, he started the rest of them, won 6 out of 10 starts. And look at this here. He beat an undefeated Colts team at a big day on Thanksgiving, throwing 5 touchdown passings to Buccaneers a few days later. And then by the end of the month, this guy's team in the playoffs after beating the Falcons on Saturday night in Atlanta. So,
Yeah,
way to go, Tony.
I do remember. I I I did have a friend of mine back in school that actually I don't know if he's a Dallas fan still today or not, but I remember back in maybe third, fourth, fifth grade that he was a big Dallas Cowboys fan. Um, yeah, so I don't remember if he still watches the Cowboys today, but you know I bet I bet my buddy of mine back in school, he was excited for sure. But I just want to throw that in there real quick.
Yeah, and speaking of Cowboys fans, if I go back one slide, so in the midst of their starting out the pants in the fourth quarter, when I went to watch the game on YouTube, you can actually find the game in '06 on YouTube, folks. You would think it was a Cowboys home game, given the amount of cheers that that would occur whenever they made a big play or scored a touchdown. And keep in mind, it's played in Charlotte. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It would be a home game for Carolina. Carolina, like you said, Carolina, was doing pretty well. Mid 2000s, coming off the Super Bowl season just a few years prior, and like you said, Amir, they the Cowboys fans, turned the turned it around, in that stadium that night. So props to them, and we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, and one more thing about the Cowboys and the Panthers. Fortunately for the Panthers, this is second time in less than a calendar year that they lost a big game at home to Dallas because they faced off on Christmas Eve the previous season and had a chance to win the game. Or excuse me, the Cowboys won that game late to keep their slim playoff hopes alive, but that prevented the Panthers winning the NFC South. But it didn't really matter in the end because they made it to the NFC Championship game. But one wonders how that would have played out had they maybe got a home game, maybe it might have hosted in Seattle instead of Carolina, maybe. Or they might have been more rested so they didn't have to travel as much because they were on the road all 3 rounds for the playoffs that year. As for speaking of the Panthers, how did your '06 season play out? Oh, my fault, getting ahead of myself. Well, speaking of Seattle, well, fortunately, yeah, that's the image we think of for the '06 Cowboys right here. That fumbled snap in Seattle on the wild card round.
Well, despite losing, that close and had a strong regular season. Um, definitely. I mean, definitely not the way that you want to go out for sure, but definitely, you know, definitely a strong season by any means. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Well, no, it's still a strong season. 9 wins, despite, searching quarterbacks. I mean, I don't know if they had a chance to win their division. The Cowboys are kind of same boat as the Panthers from the year before, but unfortunately, they lost their last 2 games, including the 39 to 31 loss at home to the Lions, team that only won 2 games coming in. So therefore, they had to go on the road instead of hosting a playoff game. The Eagles ended up winning the NFC East that year, and had they won one of those last 2 games or beaten Philadelphia once, so they got swept by the Eagles. Who knows? They might have been hosting the playoff game, and then this would never have occurred. But as for Mr. Romo, to be 5 days ahead. I mean, heck, you made it, won 9 games, made it to your first Pro Bowl. It's got things looking up for Dallas. So, keep your head held high, Mr. Romo. And by the way, happy birthday, April 21st.
yeah, happy birthday.
That brings us to back to that team in Charlotte. How did you guys fare the rest of the way? Okay, see some celebration. And Jake Delhomme in street clothes. Okay, in the Super Bowl. Oh, okay, there's a red X over that. Oh, I see what happened. Okay, so I'll highlight these. So we are able to bounce back. Panthers two, win the next 2 home games. Got to win games at home, right? But unfortunately, got a little problem here, Keenan. I see a
Lost four of
collapse.
their lost 4 of their final 8 during that stretch. That's probably why Jake Malone is in street clothes, ladies and gentlemen, because of the broken of his finger in the 27-24 loss against a very strong Philadelphia team led by Andy Reid at the time. So,
Yeah, that game was on Monday night, and yeah, the Panthers were winning that game. Unfortunately, the Eagles rallied in the fourth quarter to win it, and then during that stretch, Drake alone injured his pinky while after his hand made contact with the Eagles' helmet. And unfortunately, they had a problem closing out games that year. The Panthers they couldn't put teams away or hold on to leads, and it's bad. And that's crazy given that this offense had Jake Delhomme, Sean Foster, and Steve Smith, and D'Angelo Williams, who's a rookie in this time. They just couldn't put
yeah,
it all together.
yeah, that's the first time we said D'Angelo Williams' name this entire presentation. So,
Hmm.
so, mm, so, yeah,
Yeah, and by the time Williams' career started to take off in Carolina, 'cause again, he's behind Deshaun Foster. Well, it marked the beginning end for Mr. Jake Delhomme and Charlotte. 'Cause he only started. He only uh, he only would start a full 16 game schedule once in the final three seasons with the Panthers, as his next two of them ended on injured reserve. The latter coming in 2009, with another pinky injury. And during that stretch, the Panthers only made the playoffs once, and it was that game against the Cardinals where they lost 33 to 13. And that was a rather forgettable game for Mr. Delhomme.
Yeah, it happened on his birthday of all days. I remember that vividly, very well. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, crazy. This is doing we're doing this episode on Tony Romo's birthday, and we bring up Jake Delhomme's birthday. Yeah, again, they are the stars of this episode, or one of the key figures in this episode. And as for getting back to Mr. Romo, it took him a while to, win a playoff game in Dallas. The same year Jake Long had his swan song season in Carolina, he finally got them to the finally got the Cowboys to their first playoff win in since '95. And 'cause after the '06 season, they made it back to the playoffs in '07, but they lost to the Giants and win the Super Bowl that year. Then they were a game away from making it in '08, but then fell apart in December again. Boy, it seems like collapse is a very common theme for Dallas and Carolina, as I'm
Yeah,
saying that.
for sure. Yeah. Those collapses between those two, especially for Carolina in the let me see, 08, '09. Well, like you said, actually, I take that back. It was the Arizona game,
Mhm.
and yeah, I don't really know much what happens next the next season after that. But like you said, probably some late collapses.
Well, ironically enough, 2009 was the best season for the Cowboys. I mean, they got to a very good start and had a very strong December going. They went 3-1, beat the unbeaten Saints team, shut out the Eagles in Washington towards the end of the season, and got to host a playoff game that year and defeated the Eagles 34 to 14 in the wild card round. So okay, finally get that monkey off their backs. Only to fall back down to earth the following week in Minnesota, 34 to 3. But
Ooh.
yeah, but of course, this is the Cowboys we're talking about here, so they're going to be in the running for the Super Bowl in 2010, given it's going to be hosted in Dallas. But unfortunately, the injury bug struck Romo that season, where he unfortunately injured his collarbone, and that ended his 2010 season. But luckily, he bounced back, which brings us to our next episode, or excuse me, to Keenan's story. That's coming up right after the break.
You're listening to Double Header. All right, folks, we are back, and now it's my turn to present the Panthers Cowboys Thanksgiving 2015. Now, Amir, Thanksgiving 2015, you know, Tony Romo had a great 2006, game against Carolina. What is
Mhm.
your prediction when it comes to uh, a holiday matchup against Carolina?
Well, given that this is the Cowboys' home field, I know the fans are expecting to get their money's worth. And so I'm betting the big day for him. And his receiver Des Bryant's gonna have a big day. As long as he can find a way to get around Mr. Josh Norman, because according to what my research, Storm was having an all pro type season. And also I heard this Kirk Coleman guy's pretty good too. And also got a man named Luke Kuechly as well. Okay, maybe there might be
Yeah,
some maybe you want to pump the brakes a little bit, Dallas.
yeah. Oh goodness, those are great answers for sure. This is a totally different Panthers team than what we saw 9 years ago. But yeah. So without further ado, we have a new guy in Cam Newton, and we still got Tony Romo, folks. We still got Tony Romo. QB1 for Dallas. And, so my question is to you, Amir, Cam Newton, no more Jake Delhomme, running the show here in Carolina. So what do you think?
I heard this Camden guy is pretty good and he can run the ball, pass the ball, and I heard he's gotten the patch to the playoffs twice by this point, so that's a good sign.
Yes, yes, definitely a fact there when it comes to that. And I would definitely agree with that front. So let's take a trip down memory lane with the 2014 Panthers.
Hmm.
So the Carolina Panthers were coming off a divisional win in 2014 with a record of 7-8. It turns out it was one of the weakest division races in recent memory, but they were looking to improve on that uh, uh, of a roller coaster ride from that season. So when it comes to the 2014 season, Amir, with the Carolina Panthers, what do you remember or what stands out to you when it comes to that season?
Well, kind of reminiscent of the '06 season. I mean, only this time they got to a good start, then hit a cold streak, and then got hot and miraculously won the division because everyone else is under 500 and hosted the playoff game and won it. And then they faced an old familiar face called the Seahawks. I've seen them around in this our presentation.
Yeah, yeah. Some reason Seattle might have something to say, but we shall see. But you're right when it comes to 2014 Carolina Panthers. And
Mhm.
let's see. But when it comes to the 2015 Carolina Panthers, you know, uh, dating to the team that we're gonna talk about in this segment of the show, they were on a remarkable run of 10 wins and 0 losses, led by still Cam Newton. Got got a new tight end in Greg Olsen, who in fact came from Chicago back in the uh, 2011 season, and Thomas
Mhm.
Davis and Luke Kuechly and head coach Ron Rivera. So that's a name that I didn't really say in the beginning. Ron Rivera. Well, so when you think of Ron Rivera, you know, uh, what uh, what comes to mind?
Well, a lot of gambling. I heard he's called the Riverboat Gambler, and but got to a slow start. But by this point, he's things are coming together in Carolina for Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, definitely you know, still haven't lost a single game. Um, they've they've blown out some teams. They kept up with some teams. They kept it close. Cam Newton, like you said, can run the ball, uh, pass the ball pretty well, and had a great offensive line during that time. And we'll just see. And so this next bullet point, we're going against Dallas. Panthers were coming off a big win against the Washington Redskins at the time, not the Commanders, but the Redskins. Cam Newton was coming off of 5 touchdowns last game before the Dallas game. So, hey, things are starting to look up for Mr. Cam Newton and Ron Rivera and the whole 2015 squad. So let's take a look at Dallas's side. So in the previous season, 2014, the Cowboys were coming off a 12-4 record with Tony Romo as quarterback, and 12-4. Hmm. 12-4. What do you remember when it comes to the 12-4 Dallas Cowboys 2014 team, Amir?
Well, that going in that year, they hadn't made the playoffs since '09. They were had a down year in '06, 2010, excuse me, and then the next 3 years they would get to the final league regular season, but would fall short against their division foes. But then everything came together in 2014. Good running game, good off passing offense, optimistic defense, and division champions. And I didn't. Tony was even in the running for MVP that season. And it's, I'd say towards the end that December room, he was awarded. He made a name for himself for that MVP voting race in 2014.
Yeah, I definitely remember that with Tony Romo being in the conversation and just seeing how well Dallas has, excuse me, improved during that time. Man, it's been a few years since we've seen a Dallas team, has done well. And yeah, so with that in mind, Romo uh, was playing through a rib injury, and after making a playoff berth that season, they ended up losing to the division round to the Green Bay Packers. And ooh, it doesn't get better from here.
Mm,
Beginning of the 2015 season, Romo suffered a collarbone fracture, uh, which is caused him to miss 2 games of the season. But but you know, collarbone, early on the season, maybe he can bounce back and see what happens. So with that being said, uh, matchup time. All right,
mhm.
matchup. So any predictions when it comes to this matchup against the Carolina Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys on Super Bowl? Thanksgiving Day, excuse me.
Well, I know the Panthers are going to be motivated because I don't know what is. I read the spread for that week, and the Cowboys were favored by 1.5 points. Were probably favored going into that game despite some record discrepancies. So I'm betting a big day from the Panthers offense and the Panthers in general. But I will say the Cowboys are going to give the Panthers run for the money, given that's on their home field and this is their tradition. So close game.
Yeah, which leads to my next point. Which leads to my next point, folks. Um, so Amir, what NFL teams have played on Thanksgiving the fewest?
The Panthers and the Jaguars and the Ravens.
And I think you're probably missing one more.
Oh, Browns haven't played on Thanksgiving in a while, and the Cardinals.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And well, and the and another teams that hasn't really made a mark on Thanksgiving either. That being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Cincinnati Bengals only playing on one apiece. So that was my quick fact for you, Amir. So good
Hmm.
job on that.
Thank you.
So with that being said, let's see how we do. Ooh, okay. And keep in mind, folks, this was the first game for the Carolina Panthers on Thanksgiving. So us
Hmm.
Carolina or for us Carolina fans, in the North Carolina area and South Carolina area are very excited for this big day. Oh boy, I remember this. So the game starts with Dallas marching down the field with their first drive. And I kid you not, 15 seconds later, interception by Kurt Coleman, which led to a pick six touchdown. Now, Amir, right out the gate, Kurt Coleman, intercepted the pass by Romo. What are your thoughts? Like if you paid attention to this game or watched this game in person.
Well, I think Kurt Coleman had a very impressive year that season, and it was. I know when they showed the replay, there was a lot of coverage leaning towards Josh Norman, so they figured we'll target Kurt Coleman, and well, paid the price. He picked it off and took it back to the house.
Yes, yes, for sure. And Josh Norman was going up against the wide receiver or tight end Des Bryant at the time. So you know Josh Norman was pretty excited about that too. Now back to Kirk Coleman. He ran into the house. Panthers were on the board early, but you know Dallas had a few opportunities. To strike back and oh boy, oh boy. It doesn't get any easier for them. Fast forward, or excuse me, let me back up. Carolina was able to stop the Dallas Cowboys offense, leading them to make a 10-3 first quarter lead. And fast forward, there were the costly interceptions by Luke Kuechly, once again, Kirk Coleman, and big defensive players. So, Amir, very deep defensive minded Carolina team. Carolina was probably the best defense, going in, very strong, haven't lost a game. So when it comes to the Carolina defense, what is your thoughts when you think of the Carolina Panthers 2015 defensive players?
Well, a lot of talent on that defense. I mean, they're got Keekly Davis, who also was on Panthers roster in '06 when they faced the Cowboys. So he was about the only Panther still around now, 9 years later. More him in a second. And you had Kirk Coleman bounced around, but started making a name herself with the Panthers. And even Josh Norman had fastest brilliant going into 2015, but then he was just coming out party that season.
Yeah, I just remember seeing Josh Norman making big plays, guarding the best tight ends or wide receivers there is, and Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis throw him in the mix. So
Mhm.
they put on a show, and on that front. So when it comes to Cam Newton's stats, you know, don't forget about Cam Newton, y'all.
Nope, can't
So
get him.
nope. So Cam Newton's stats were this: 16 for 27, 183 yards, zero touchdowns, zero interceptions. Okay, nothing there, but hey, was able to get a rushing touchdown. And I remember, you know, there was a play, um, you know, had it had it drawn up for him, and all of a sudden, he finds the end zone and does his signature dances. It's all hyped up and like, yeah, yeah. And so I'm like, all right, this is good if you're a Carolina fan, and boy, oh boy, it was. So when it
Yeah,
comes to, go
getting
ahead.
back to that, I remember that Panthers defense played good that day. Panthers offense was serviceable. I mean, didn't have it wasn't a bit. If we were looking for an offensive like explosion. This was not the game. Their offense, Panthers offense, like I said, serviceable. Cowboys offense was like non-existent. And as for Luke Kuechly, he actually picked up two passes in a span of like a few seconds, and he also took the first one to the end zone as well.
Yes, I do. I forgot to mention that earlier, but looking back at the footage and my memory from this game, I do actually remember a few Luke Kuechly interceptions as well. But I don't know. Kurt Coleman was the guy that started, you know, a good run with this defense in this game, and got the team fired up, and everything followed suit. So with that, let's see how the Dallas Cowboys did. Were they able to recover from this? And
Yeah.
no, they did not.
Mm-mm.
Uh, for Romo and the Cowboys, things did not look good. Romo's stats were 11 for 21, 106 yards, zero touchdowns, three interceptions. So we hit the nail on the head when it came to the Carolina defense. And one big part that I didn't talk about earlier, which I'm glad I put in this slide, Romo was only sacked once. That's right, only one time. And you're probably thinking, wait a minute, that should be more than one time. Despite Carolina playing so well. No, Romo was only sacked once, and it came in the hands of Thomas Davis, a guy that we didn't really bring up a lot, but we mentioned his name from time to time, during the segment. So it turns out a broken collarbone once again for the Cowboys quarterback. 9 seconds left in the third quarter, having the score. already not, not in contention anymore, being 30-6 Carolina. And with that, you have to rely on Matt Cassell the rest of the way, going for 13 for 19, 93 yards, one touchdown, zero interception. Pretty much in garbage time play. I hate to say this for Dallas, but you know, it wasn't really a contest for that.
No, and I bring up the point spread. A lot of the experts have picked the Cowboys to win despite coming in the game 3-7, coming off their first win since the beginning of September. So that's when Romo got hurt against the Eagles, and they missed the next 7 games. And the Cowboys offense that was explosive the year before. Well, they couldn't catch up with Brandon Whedon and Matt Castle. So when he came back years prior in Miami and won that game, experts thought, well, Romo's back in the lineup. He's had a good history of beating undefeated teams. Did in '06 and '09 against the Colts and Saints, respectively. He can do it again, but as the stats and the highlights show, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, definitely not. So you're probably thinking, what does this mean for Dallas in the 2015 season? With Tony Romo gone, um, what is this? WDTM? What does this mean? So, the Cowboys throughout the 2015 season had to run with no Tony Romo the rest of the way, as Dallas had to rely on Matt Cassell and Brandon Whedon. So, good, good job on putting that out. Anyway, the Cowboys were able to get a win the next week against the Washington Redskins at the time. Redskins, because with Matt Cassell starting, and things did not look any better with a 4-12 record, no playoff appearance. So going back to 2006, where they made the playoffs, looking good in during that time span up into 2009, and then they were able to bounce back and get a little bit better, and they start to slip a little bit. So that's really unfortunate for them.
Yeah, and then, like you said, they had to rely on Matt Castle for the last half of the season and Cooper Rush. I should have brought that up earlier. Brandon Whedon did start a few games for them, but by the time December rolled around, the Cowboys had let him go, and he was still in the state of Texas. We ended up starting for the Texans towards the end of that season. But they had Matt Castle couldn't generate their offense, so they had to turn to Cooper Rush, and who couldn't do much, who fared no better. And as a result, Cowboys finished that year 4-12.
Yeah. So you're probably thinking, you know, is Carolina still undefeated? What did they do after the Dallas Thanksgiving game? And by the way, that's the only win that came on Thanksgiving. Hopefully, more teams like Carolina get more down the road, but that's another story for another day. So you're probably thinking, what happened? So Queen City Magic. Panthers, they were still led by QB MVP contender Cam Newton. So, Cam Newton was getting better and better as the season went along. Going and which led to a 15-1 regular season. Okay. Ron Rivera won Coach of the Year, along with Newton being the MVP for the season. And the outstanding regular season was led to a Panthers to a bye week during the playoff run. So that's good. So they're able to rest up. Let's see. That's good. All right. Having an outstanding playoff run against marquee teams against the Seattle Seahawks, even. See, there was there was the Seattle Seahawks once again. They're always in the picture.
Oh
So
yeah.
and the Arizona Cardinals. And now let me stop at Arizona. So, you know, they had a bye week. They didn't have to play any wild card games. Now Amir, um, spoiler alert, it already led to Carolina's second Super Bowl appearance. What do you remember from the Arizona game?
Remember, it snowed the week leading up to the game, but it didn't really matter. The Panthers ended up destroying the Cardinals. It wasn't even close. Very reminiscent of the game on Thanksgiving. So Cam had the only time the Panthers offense just dominated Arizona, but the defense just shut the defense shut them down. And Luke Kuechly basically steals the game with a pick six. And Kirk Coleman
Yeah,
had two picks as well. Who won at halftime? Or was it game
yeah,
approach halftime, excuse me.
yeah. What it was, very reminiscent like the Dallas game for sure. But I remember watching that game in person, being all excited, and spoiler alert, folks, I am a Panthers fan. I can't deny it. I can't deny that. So, but anyway, but it led to a you know an NFC Championship, win, and a second Super Bowl appearance, and and but how did it turn out to be with the Super Bowl matchup? So we have the Denver Broncos, if I'm not mistaken, and the
Hmm.
Carolina Panthers. Now, Amir, who did the Denver Broncos had? Uh, Give me. Let me reiterate the question. Who did the Denver Broncos face? You know, in their matchup. You know, uh, before the Super Bowl.
Well, you said so you're talking about AFC Championship game?
Yes, the AFC Champions game. Excuse me. Sorry, folks.
New England Patriots.
Ah, okay. Just like last week, Tom Brady, in his magical season or magical career, kind of like what we brought up a little bit last week with the QB draft class, along with
Hmm.
Big Ben. So they had to beat the New England Patriots, and lo and behold, they did. And and a guy named Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning had to go against Mr. Brady. Now, Amir, Peyton Manning against Tom Brady. You know, we had a lot of matchup between those two. I mean, what you remember what went down during that time?
Well, I know amidst the Panthers' magical season, the Cowboys' forgettable season, Broncos were another team that was, and Patriots, they both started undefeated. Then, towards the end, they were fighting for the home field, which ultimately went to Denver because he beat New England and on Sunday night, so they won that tiebreaker. And as a result, the game was hosted in Denver, and that worked in Denver's favor. So come the Super Bowl, it's between Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers, which I wonder how the Super Bowl comes into play here.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's see if the Panthers. That's right, the Panthers are still looking for the in 2015 they're still looking for their first Lombardi Trophy. Let's see what happened. Ooh, wait a minute. A lot of Denver pictures in this slide here. All
And I
right.
recognize a familiar face, Mr. DeMarcus Ware, and Cowboy fans. They're familiar with that name.
Ah, good point, Amir. Good point. Yeah. So let me read off a few of these bullet points for the Spotify audience. Came with, excuse me, Super Bowl 50 came against the Denver Broncos in one quarterback final game as a player in Peyton Manning. And the first appearance in the big game with Cam Newton. And Cam Newton's stats was this, folks: 18 for 41, 265, zero touchdowns, one interception, a rating of 55.4, sacked six times, and ooh, Peyton Manning's stats is a little bit better, but still a little rough. But 13 for 23, 141 yards, zero touchdowns, one interceptions, a rating of 56.6, and sacked five times. and it was pretty much a you know a a loosey edge type of game. Not
Hmm.
much offense, no at all. Um, so Amir, if you don't mind breaking down a little bit what you saw, or what you remember rather from Super Bowl 50.
Oh, well, definitely a game I think I would like to forget. Every Panther fan would like to forget, but I do know it was on CBS. The Panthers were very for favored to win, but fortunately didn't get the job done. And well, the magical season ended kind of like we did in '03 and '05. Great year, but no Lombardi Trophy coming to Charlotte.
Yeah, which leads us well, before we get into the next slide, it came down to Demarcus Ware and Von Miller basically stealing the show from there, and the final score was 24 to 10 Denver. And what happened to the Carolina Panthers? You may be wondering, despite not winning the Super Bowl, uh, those are not those are not happy faces whatsoever. And it
Yeah,
comes to
no Super Bowl for Charlotte, and but look on the bright side, Dallas. At least DeMarcus got a ring, so hey, congrats to him. And also, this was I brought up CBS because the people who called that game, was Jim Nantz and Bill Sims, who also called the game on Thanksgiving, that would ultimately be the last Super Bowl Bill Sims would call as a color commentator because 2 years later, a familiar face will be calling games alongside Jim Nantz, Mr. Tony Romo.
that's a good connection right there. And Tony Romo, came into CBS, looking for a job, and coming, you know, retired, and does a pretty solid job. I might say, knows knows the stuff here and there. So that's a nice little segue into the CBS affiliate.
Yeah, because a few months after that game, Cowboys drafted a quarterback by the name of Dak Prescott. And while he wasn't expected to start that season, unfortunately, a familiar face is going to come up again. Seattle and Tony Romo, he was got injured in the preseason game at CenturyLink while sliding to make a first down, and well, that opened the door for Dak, and he rest is history because he's still starting 7 or 8 seasons later.
Yeah,
And
just like we talked about, in our first episode with Dak Prescott. So that will be the end of my presentation. So I'm going to be stopping sharing the screen now. And Amir, uh, so what are the connections between the 2006 Dallas Cowboys and between the two and the Carolina Panthers as well? Is there any connection?
well, it's like both teams, Dallas gets a lot of the headlines. I mean, they get respect to make the Super Bowl both seasons. Panthers weren't, I mean, even despite making the playoffs 2013, 14, they weren't like the top of the list of making the Super Bowl, but mostly made it there that season. So a lot of Super Bowl expectations, which is the norm in the NFL. Everyone expects their team to get there and win it all. But unfortunately, injuries, some mid-season, late-season collapses, quarterback carousels, and have prevented these teams from getting winning the ultimate prize.
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of success, a lot of failure. Um, that's that's what comes to mind to me. But that's a good way to put it, Amir. I like that. So that's all the time we have today, folks. I appreciate you, joining along with us today. Feel free to check out our Wix website, which I will put down below. If you have any questions when it comes to the PowerPoint presentations or anything about the stories talked about today, any opinions, feel free to put that in the comment section down below. And until next time, uh, we will catch you guys next time.
And before we sign off, we did reference our first episode, and Fortunately, if haven't been following the news, the NFL has lost some key players and contributors, and since that episode has come out, and that being one of them, Mr. Bill Tobin, who passed away on April April 19th at the age of 83. And with the anniversary of his comments versus Mel Kiper coming up, we'd also like to acknowledge Chris Mortensen, the man who interviewed Bill Tobin that day. He sadly succumbed to cancer a month prior. And also for Panther fans, we also lost Roman Gabriel on April 20th, 2024, at the age of 83. He was their color commentator during their first season in the NFL. So we'd like to honor this episode and dedicate it to Mr. Tobin, Mr. Mortensen, and Mr. Gabriel.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great way to put it, Amir. I'm very saddened by this news, and everyone, when it comes to the NFL around the world as well, and we'll be thinking about Bill Tobin and a whole lots of others during this time, and may our thoughts and prayers be with them. Sure.
Definitely.
So, hate to end the episode on such a sad note, but with that being said, we will catch you guys next time on another episode of Doubleheader with Keenan Costain and Amir Daniels. Until next time, have a good one.
Have a good one, folks.